From now on, Mom, your pension goes straight into my account. You don't need anything anymore. You just need a corner to wait. My throat closed. I couldn't speak. But that night, when he opened the refrigerator, he froze. Then he screamed. A scream so loud the entire neighborhood woke up, and for the first time in 3 months, sitting in my rocking chair under the Arizona stars, I smiled. Because finally, someone was screaming because of me. If you're still listening, tell me where you're watching from. Every comment you leave is another mark in this journey. And if this story has touched you, don't forget to hit like so it can reach even further. You might wonder what kind of mother smiles when her own son screams like that. What kind of woman just sits there, rocking calmly while chaos erupts inside her home? Let me tell you, the kind of woman who's been crushed for 3 long months. The kind of woman who's been turned into a shadow inside her own house. A woman whose money was stolen, whose dignity was trampled, and whose voice was silenced by her own flesh and blood. The story I'm about to tell you, with my heart still aching and my hands still trembling from suppressed rage, didn't begin that night of screaming. It began 3 months earlier, on the day I buried my husband and unknowingly buried my freedom with him. It was a Thursday morning in July when we lowered the coffin into the ground in Scottsdale. The desert heat pressed down like a weight, carrying the grief of every widow on earth. I wore a simple black dress I'd bought in a hurry from a store downtown because in 42 years of marriage, I'd never needed mourning clothes. Robert, my husband, had always been too stubborn to die until his heart decided it couldn't take it anymore. Heart attack, the doctor said. Quick, painless, without a goodbye. He'd been fixing the fence in the backyard that Monday morning. When I called him in for lunch, I found him lying on the grass, still holding a pair of pliers. During the funeral, people came to hug me, saying all the familiar phrases. He's in a better place now. God has his reasons. Stay strong. Maggie. I felt torn in two. Part of me grieved deeply for the breakfasts we'd never share again, for the silly arguments over television shows, for the faint scent of him still clinging to his pillow. 42 years can't be erased in a single moment. We had taken root in each other, even if sometimes those roots hurt. But the other half of me, the part I feel guilty admitting, felt relieved. Robert was a good man, hard-working, never harsh or violent, but he was controlling. Every cent in the house was under his supervision, as if my work, my efforts didn't count. For decades, I was a nurse at Phoenix General Hospital. I retired with a worn-out back and aching feet from years of 12-hour shifts. Yet my pension went into his account, and he'd hand me $800 a month for household expenses, and for myself, $800. Like pocket money for a child? Whenever I wanted a new pair of shoes, a dress, or even a lipstick from the drugstore, he'd frown. Do you really need it, Maggie? We should save. Save for what I never knew. The house was paid off. No debts. But he held on to money like someone guarding water in a desert, afraid one day it would run dry. 2 weeks after the funeral, the lawyer handling the estate, Miss Catherine Walsh, a refined woman with silver glasses and the faint scent of expensive perfume, called me to her office in downtown Phoenix. She opened a brown folder, her voice professional, almost detached. I didn't understand everything, but some numbers snapped me awake. Our house on Maple Ridge Drive in Scottsdale was valued at $725,000, debt-free, mortgage-free, and the most important detail, Robert had put everything in my name in his will, something I hadn't known. Your husband wanted to make sure you'd be protected, Miss Walsh said, adjusting her glasses. He even added a note saying that if your son ever tried to claim your assets, the entire estate would go to charity instead. I froze, Robert had never said anything, but now that I thought about it, I remembered how he always avoided giving money to our son. Brandon, he never trusted him. There's more, Miss Walsh continued. His savings, life insurance, and retirement funds total $135,000. All yours. I was speechless. $135,000, a house worth nearly $700,000, and a monthly pension of more than $3,450. For the first time in my life, I was the owner of my own existence. I left the office on trembling legs, my heart pounding not from joy, but from the unfamiliar rush of freedom, the strange, thrilling, and slightly terrifying feeling of being able to decide for myself, buy what I wanted, go where I pleased, live how I chose. But I soon learned that freedom is fragile, especially when someone's waiting to steal it from you. 2 days later, the doorbell rang. And when I opened the door, there he was. Brandon, my only son, standing with 2 big suitcases, a backpack, and that crooked smile he always wore when he wanted something. "Hi, Mom," he said, walking in without waiting for an invitation. "I'm staying for a few days. We need to talk." Brandon was 38 now, his belly softening, his hair thinning, dark circles under his eyes. He dropped his bags on the floor and fell onto the couch without even taking off his shoes. "Jessica kicked me out," he said, tossing the words like they were nothing. "We had a big fight. She told me to leave." Jessica was the 3rd woman I'd heard about, though I'd never met any of them. I only knew their names from the blurry photos he sent and the stories he told when he needed to borrow money. "What about work?" I asked, standing by the door. He shrugged, opened the fridge, and drank orange juice straight from the bottle. Didn't work out. The boss promised $3,200, but the contract said only $1,800. I'm not an idiot. I quit. My stomach sank. I'd heard this story too many times. Brandon always had a reason for being unemployed. The boss was unfair, the pay too low, the hours too long, the company unstable. "Do as you like," I said, forcing a smile. "Your room's still the same. The small back room with a single bed, a creaky dresser, and the old band posters still stuck to the walls from his teenage years. I'd never taken them down. Maybe deep down, I still hoped he'd come home as the boy he once was. But the man who walked in that day wasn't that boy anymore. I just need some time to get back on track. Mom, a few days. A few days turned into a week turned into 2, and me, as always, I let it happen. At first, I was glad to have someone around. The house had felt too empty since Robert died. I often woke in the middle of the night, reaching for him before remembering he was gone. Having Brandon there, the sound of the television late at night, the smell of reheated food in the kitchen made me feel less alone. But then came the requests. "Mom, can I borrow $850? Need some work clothes for interviews." I gave it. "Mom, my phone broke. Need a new one to job hunt, around $1,200. I gave it. "Mom, my scooter broke down. Repairs cost $620. I gave it again. Each time he'd say, "I'll pay you back. Mom, once I get a job." But the job never came, and the money never returned. One evening, as I was washing dishes after dinner, Brandon walked into the kitchen and sat down. He stayed silent for a while, then said, without looking up, "Mom, we need to talk about your finances." My hands froze under the faucet. "My finances," I repeated slowly. "Yeah, how much do you still have in your savings? Around $100,000. My heart stopped. How did he know? "David, that's none of your business." He laughed softly, coldly. "None of my business. I'm your son. The only one you have. If you die tomorrow, where does that money go?" A chill ran down my spine. That was the first time I realized I was afraid of my own son. A week later, He opened my bedroom door without knocking. "Mom, we need to talk seriously. About your money, about this house, about the future. You can't keep living like this with no plan. Now that I'm here, I'll take care of everything. You're 67. Mom," he began slowly, "your memory isn't what it used to be. That's normal. You left the gas stove on the other day. Last week, you left your keys in the door. Older people are easy targets. Anyone could take advantage of you." His words sounded reasonable, even gentle, but something was wrong. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice small. "First, we should combine everything into one account. Your savings, your pension, everything. I'll take care of it all. Mom, pay the bills, buy groceries, manage everything. You won't have to worry about a thing." The next morning, I was woken by knocking on my door. "Mom, get up. We have to go to the bank. I made an appointment at Wells Fargo in Scottsdale." The manager, a young man in a navy blue suit, greeted us politely. "Good morning, Mrs. Thompson. Your son explained everything. You'd like to give him power of attorney over your account, correct?" I looked at Brandon, who placed a hand on my shoulder. "It's just for convenience. Mom, I'll handle everything, so you don't have to go to the bank anymore." The manager slid the pen across the desk, and I, foolish, signed. 2 days later, he walked into the kitchen while I was peeling potatoes. "Mom, I talked to the bank. Starting next month, your pension will be deposited directly into my account. It'll be easier that way." The knife slipped from my hand, clattering onto the floor. "What?" "It's better. Mom, I'll pay the bills, buy what we need, take care of everything. You don't need anything except a place to rest." From that day on, everything changed. Brandon took control of everything. He did the grocery shopping, always choosing the cheapest items. When I asked him to buy something, he rolled his eyes. "You don't need that. Mom, we have to save." He changed the Wi-Fi password and refused to tell me. He started monitoring the electricity, complaining whenever I left the kitchen light on. At the end of the month, he handed me $350. "Here, Mom, your allowance." $350. While my pension was over $3,000 and my savings over $100,000, I took the money with trembling hands, went to my room, locked the door, and cried. My closest friend Patty still called every week, inviting me out for lunch or coffee, but every time I agreed, Brandon came up with an excuse. "Mom, it's too hot out right now. Your blood pressure could spike." Until one day, he answered the phone himself. "Hi, Patty. My mom's not feeling well lately. She's been very tired. When she's better, I'll let you know." Then he hung up. I was sitting less than 10 feet away. I wasn't tired. I wasn't sick. But he decided I was ill, and Patty believed him. One morning, I put on a floral dress I'd bought long ago but never worn. When I walked downstairs, Brandon looked me up and down and smirked. "Floral dresses at your age look ridiculous. You should dress more modestly." My face burned with shame. I went back upstairs, changed into an old blouse, and didn't recognize the woman staring back in the mirror. Pale, faded, invisible. One afternoon, Brandon went out, leaving his computer open on the table. On the screen was a chat with a building supply seller. Luxury hardwood flooring, premium wall paint, imported faucets. Total $12,400. Delivery address: 2156 Camelback Road, Unit 405. My heart froze. I opened his browser history. Custom furniture invoices, a $900 refrigerator receipt, an $18,000 transfer. Over $50,000 gone from my savings to decorate an apartment he had never dared to mention. I collapsed onto the sofa, my legs weak, heart pounding. He wasn't managing my finances. He was robbing me. And the worst part was, I had let him. That Wednesday morning, Brandon handed me a $20 bill. "Mom, buy laundry detergent and sponges. If there's anything left, get some bread." I walked 13 blocks under the September sun to Whole Foods Market on Shea Boulevard. At the store, I was waiting in line when I heard someone call my name. Maggie. I turned slowly. Patty. My old friend. She was 64, 3 years younger than me, but looked 20 years younger. Her eyes swept over me from head to toe, her face changing. Oh my God. Maggie, you've lost so much weight. I forced a smile. I'm on a diet. A lie. I wasn't dieting. I was starving. She didn't believe me. She grabbed my hand. We're talking right now. She paid for her groceries, covered my bread too, and pulled me into the cafe across the street. She ordered 2 lattes and a slice of carrot cake. Now talk, and don't give me any diet nonsense. What's happening? I broke. I told her everything. The power of attorney, the financial control, the $350 allowance, the cheap food, the cut-off friends, the secret apartment, the $50,000 gone. Patty was silent for a moment, then said, "You're housing a parasite." Maggie. "No, he's my son." "No, he's a parasite. And worse, you're letting him feed on you." She leaned closer. "You don't have to endure abuse just because he's your son. A child who doesn't respect his mother doesn't deserve one. Now you have to fight back." But how I signed the papers gave him everything. Power of attorney can be revoked. We're going to see a lawyer today. Patty pulled out her phone. "I know a lawyer. His name's James Mitchell. He's excellent. His office is downtown. I'm calling him right now." An hour later, we sat in James Mitchell's office on Central Avenue. He was 52, with salt and pepper hair and glasses hanging on his chest. Patty explained everything while I handed over the documents. Copies of the authorization, bank statements, and the notes I'd secretly kept of Brandon's expenses. James read each page carefully, then removed his glasses and looked at me. "You're a victim of financial exploitation and abuse. This is a criminal offense." My heart pounded. A crime. Yes, he's been using your money for his own benefit without your consent. Power of attorney doesn't mean permission to steal, but he's my son. So what his tone was firm but not harsh. No one has the right to steal from their mother. No one. For the first time, I felt someone stand on my side. What should I do now? Step 1, revoke the authorization. Step 2, file a formal complaint. Step 3, block all his access to your accounts. Step 4, reclaim what's yours. Patty drove me home, talking nonstop. Be smart. Move fast, but keep it secret. Don't let him suspect a thing. Pretend nothing's changed. Be the sweet old lady he thinks you are. When the car stopped in front of my house, Patty grabbed my hand. "Maggie, are you sure? Because if you start this and back out halfway, he'll crush you." I looked her straight in the eyes. "I'm sure." The next morning, Brandon left early. I waited a few extra minutes, then put on my neatest clothes, a touch of lipstick, brushed my hair, at Wells Fargo. I waited nearly 45 minutes before being called. The manager was the same young man who had witnessed me sign that paper. "Good morning, Mrs. Thompson. How can I help you today? I'd like to revoke the power of attorney I signed for my son." His smile faded. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." He typed a few lines, frowned. "Mrs. Thompson, your account has had multiple unusual transactions over the past 2 months, totaling over $54,000. That's exactly why I want to revoke it." He handed me a form. I signed 3 times, got it notarized next door. When I returned, he said, "Your son no longer has access. I strongly recommend changing all your passwords." I did it right there. Card PIN, online login, everything. Step 1, complete. Step 2 was moving the remaining money to another bank. Patty came with me to a branch across town. I opened a new account under my name only. I transferred all the remaining savings, $38,000. Out of $135,000, he had burned nearly $97,000 in less than 3 months. But what was left was mine, and no one would touch it again. Step 3 was gathering evidence. Whenever Brandon went out, I quietly searched the house. In his room, I found a folder full of contracts, invoices, and estimates, all tied to the apartment on Camelback Road. I took photos of every page with my phone. I discovered he had made a down payment of $65,000, all withdrawn from my account. The rest was financed, 12 monthly payments of $2,890 each. Where would those payments come from? My pension. He had planned it perfectly. Each night, I lay in bed staring at the photos on my phone, feeling a cold rage crawl down my spine. Not wild anger anymore, but something sharper, calmer, calculated. Step 4 was filing the report. James came with me to the police station. I brought every piece of evidence. The investigator, Officer Maria Gonzalez, reviewed them carefully. You have a solid case. This qualifies as financial theft. Shall I open an investigation? I signed my name with trembling hands. There was no turning back now. In the days that followed, I pretended nothing had changed. I still cooked for him, did his laundry, took my allowance, smiled when he said, "Love you, Mom." But inside, I was counting down, planning every move, waiting for the right moment. Then on a Monday night, after 2 weeks of playing the obedient mother, I struck. I waited for Brandon to go out to meet friends, probably to spend more of my money, and went to the kitchen. I opened the fridge and emptied it completely. Beer, frozen dinners, juice, deli meat, all of it went into the trash. Then I wrote a note. From now on, whoever doesn't earn money doesn't eat. Welcome to the real world. The homeowner. I placed the note inside the empty fridge, closed the door, then sat on the porch in my old rocking chair, wrapped in my mother's knitted shawl, and waited. His scream tore through the night, sharp enough to make the neighborhood dogs bark in chorus. I kept rocking slowly, gazing at the starry sky. For the first time in 3 months, I smiled. His footsteps thundered on the floor. The door slammed open. Brandon stood before me, face flushed, veins bulging, eyes wide with fury. "What the hell did you do?" I stayed seated, calm. He pointed toward the house, shaking with anger. "The fridge is empty. Where's the food?" "I threw it out." He took a step forward, fists clenched. "Are you insane? How dare you throw out my food?" "Your food?" I stood up slowly. That's strange, because as far as I know, the person who paid for it was me. With the money you stole from me? He stumbled back half a step. "Stole, I didn't steal anything. I was managing it." "Managing," I let out a dry laugh. "You burned nearly $97,000 in 3 months, bought an apartment, filled it with furniture while I lived on eggs and cold rice, surviving on $350 a month of my own money. That's not management. That's theft." His mouth opened and closed. "I was going to tell you about the apartment. When after you spent it all after I died so you could inherit the rest." Sweat rolled down his forehead. "Mom, I did this for our future. We could rent the apartment, make extra income. Our future." My voice rose. "You locked me in this house, cut me off from my friends, handed me allowance money like I was a beggar, bought cheap groceries, treated me like garbage, and you dare talk about a future." I bent down, picked up the folder beside my chair, and held it out. "You know what I found? You spent $12,400 on flooring, $900 on a refrigerator, $8,200 on furniture, $17,500 on a motorcycle you hid in the garage. Want me to keep going?" His face turned pale. "Mom, how did you get that?" From your room, I photographed everything. Every receipt, every transfer, every cent you took. He stepped back, nearly tripping. You went through my room. I corrected him coldly. My house, my money, and now. I dropped the folder at his feet, papers scattering around him. Now you'll give it back. He stared at the papers, then at me. Give it back, Mom. I don't have the money anymore. It's gone. Then sell the apartment. I can't. It's under my name. I signed a bank loan. That's your problem. He grabbed his head, panicked. You've lost your mind. You can't do this to me. Can I? I crossed my arms. Brandon, I already have. I revoked the authorization, changed every password, moved the remaining money to another account, and filed a theft report. The room went silent. Brandon stared at me like I was someone else. You reported me. Yes, my voice was firm. You stole from me, humiliated me, isolated me, made me feel worthless, and now you dare demand loyalty. Loyalty is earned, Brandon, and you lost it long ago. He started crying. Mom, please. I know I messed up. Give me a chance to fix it. I'll pay you back slowly. I'll get a job. Enough, I interrupted, my tone calm but icy. Enough lies. Enough empty promises. Enough using me. I took a folded paper from my purse and handed it to him. You have 48 hours to leave this house. If not, the police will remove you. His hands shook. You're kicking me out. Yes, but I have nowhere to go. That's no longer my concern. He dropped to his knees before me, clasping his hands. Mom, please, I'm your son. Don't do this. I looked down at him. You were right about one thing. I once thought I only needed a small corner to die in, but now I realize I'm not ready to die. And when I do, it'll be on my terms, in my own home, with my dignity. You won't be here to see it. I turned and walked inside. I locked the door, went upstairs, locked it again. That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. The next morning, Brandon was still sitting on the couch, eyes red, face drawn. When he opened his mouth, I raised a hand. I don't want to hear another word from you. The next day, when I came back from the market, his suitcases were neatly stacked in the living room. He left without saying goodbye, without apologizing, without a note. And my first feeling was relief. 3 days after Brandon left, I got a call from Miss Catherine Walsh. Mrs. Thompson, I need you to come to my office. There's a document I was instructed to hold per your husband's request. My chest tightened. What kind of document? A letter. He told me to give it to you only if Brandon ever tried to take your property. I froze for a moment. How did you find out? Attorney James Mitchell called me. We're colleagues. He told me about your case. Patty drove me to the office. Miss Walsh greeted us with her usual stern expression, but this time there was something softer in her eyes. Sympathy. She pulled out an old envelope sealed with red wax, the handwriting on it messy but familiar. To Maggie, open only if Brandon becomes the man I always feared he might. My stomach twisted. He gave this to me 2 years before he passed. He said he was afraid your son might one day take advantage of you and told me to deliver it only if that happened. I suppose that time has come. I held the envelope, feeling its weight. Not just paper, but truth. A farewell. I carefully broke the seal. Inside were 3 handwritten pages, the letters shaky and uneven. He must have written them when he was already sick, when he knew his time was short. Maggie, if you're reading this, it means my fear has come true. Brandon has tried to take what belongs to you, and I'm no longer there to protect you. But there's something I never had the courage to say while I was alive, not because I didn't want to, but because I was ashamed. Ashamed of the son I raised. Brandon was different even as a child, not evil at first, just cold. When other kids cried, he laughed. When someone got hurt, he didn't care. Do you remember the neighbor's dog that got hit by a car? He just said, "It's only an animal." You told me he was just a thoughtless kid, but I knew better. As Brandon grew older, things got worse. Lying came as naturally to him as breathing. He often stole money from my wallet, and I always thought I had dropped it somewhere. He was good at pretending, good at manipulating, using everyone around him to get what he wanted. I tried being strict, tried to teach him right from wrong, but he didn't change. He only learned to hide it better. 3 years ago, he came to me saying he needed to borrow $15,000 to pay off an urgent debt or he'd be sued. I gave him the money, but had my doubts. So I hired someone to investigate. The result? There was no debt. He had used the money to buy an expensive motorcycle to flip for profit. He lied to his own father without a blink. That was when I realized our son was not a good man, and he never would be. I didn't tell you because I knew you wouldn't believe me. You always defended him, said I was too harsh. Maybe I was strict, but strictness doesn't create a monster. Monsters are born that way. That's why I wrote the will as I did. The house is in your name only, indivisible, and if you pass away, it will go straight to charity, never through anyone else's hands, because I knew that if he ever had the chance, he would take everything from you. And if you're reading this, it means I was right. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I'm sorry for leaving you to face this alone, but never blame yourself. You are the best mother any child could ever dream of. This is not your fault. It's his. Be strong. Be free. You've always been stronger than you think. Love you, even if I never said it well. Robert. By the time I reached the last line, tears were streaming down my face, not from sadness, but from release. I forgave not Brandon, but myself. For months, I had tormented myself, thinking it was my fault. But Robert was right. The problem was never me. Patty finished reading, then took my hand tightly. Your husband loved you, Maggie, in his own way. But it was real. I wiped my tears and nodded softly. I know. Miss Walsh handed me a tissue. There's one more thing. Your husband left instructions that if you ever needed legal support against Brandon, I would represent you for free. He prepaid all legal fees for 5 years. I froze. He did that 2 years before he passed. Yes, Catherine said gently. He knew, and he did everything he could to protect you. That night, I sat in my rocking chair, holding the letter to my chest, gazing at the starlit sky as soft moonlight bathed the porch. I whispered as if Robert could hear me, "Thank you. Thank you for still protecting me even from beyond." For the first time since he died, I didn't feel alone. 6 months have passed. Some mornings I still wake up amazed that this is my life, free, whole, and truly living. Today is one of those mornings. I woke up early. The smell of coffee drifted up from the kitchen. It wasn't me who brewed it. It was Emily, the pharmacy student who rents the back room, the one that used to be Brandon's. She's 23 with curly hair tied back, a bright smile, and an energy that makes the house feel alive again. She studies in the morning, works at the hospital in the afternoon, and in the evening, we sit together on the porch talking about everything and nothing. At first, I was hesitant about having someone else live in the house. After everything with Brandon, I was afraid to share space again, afraid of being used, afraid of trusting the wrong person. But Patty told me, Maggie, you need company, but from someone real. Post a room for rent and choose someone who makes you feel comfortable. Emily was the first to reply. She came one Sunday afternoon, shyly, holding a small notebook. She said she was struggling to pay for school, that her family in Ohio couldn't help much. When I looked at her, I saw someone fighting to stand on her own. You can stay. The rent is $650 a month. We'll share the kitchen and bathroom. I cook. You help tidy up. She nearly cried with relief. From that day, my house breathed again. When I went to the kitchen this morning, Emily had already set the table for two: scrambled eggs, crispy toast, fresh fruit, hot coffee with milk. Good morning. Mrs. Maggie, I'm off today. So I made breakfast for both of us. I sat down, eating slowly, tasting the warmth of food made with kindness. Thank you, sweetheart. You cook for me all the time. It's only fair I return the favor sometimes. After breakfast, I opened my bank statements. Balance $71,000. Brandon had been ordered by the court to pay $52,000 in restitution. He'd sold the apartment, losing money because he rushed. My pension was back to $3,450, fully under my control. With the room, rent, and savings, I finally had real security. The house was different now. I painted the walls light, almost white, to make the space feel open. Bought a soft beige sofa that felt like a gentle hug. Replaced the curtains. Planted flowers on the porch. Bought a new fan. Every small change was a quiet declaration. This house is mine. This life is mine. At 10 o'clock, Patty picked me up for our Wednesday women's group. I put on the new floral blouse I'd bought with my own money and felt light as air. You doing okay? She asked. I'm great. And this time it was true. We met in a small church hall. 12 women over 60, each with her own story. Widowed, abandoned, betrayed by children. We shared, laughed, cried, and found hope in one another. Today was my turn. Mrs. Ellen, the coordinator with silver hair and kind eyes, invited me to the center. Maggie, would you like to share your story? I took a deep breath and began. I spoke about Brandon, control, fear, but also Robert's letter, justice, and new beginnings. When I finished, many women were in tears, not from pity, but because they saw themselves in my story. Grace, 72, raised her hand. My son manages my money. I'm too scared to fight back. I looked at her clearly. You have to fight back before it's too late. No one's coming to save you. Only you can. She nodded, tears streaming, but her eyes shone. After the meeting, Patty took me to our favorite restaurant. We ordered grilled beef, rice, beans, and fries, eating and chatting like old times. You look different, Patty said. Different how? Lighter, more like yourself. I laughed, because I am myself again. That evening, I found a box on the porch. Brown paper, red ribbon, a card from Emily. Thank you, Mrs. Maggie, for giving me a home when no one else believed in me. You are the mother I always wished I had. Inside was a sea green knitted blanket, handmade. I wrapped it around my shoulders and cried, not from sadness, but gratitude, belonging, love. That's when I understood family isn't blood. Family is the people who stay, who care, who choose to walk beside you. That night under the stars, I thought about everything. About Brandon, Robert, the fragile woman I was and who I'd become. You have to fall to learn to rise, lose to understand what's valuable, hit bottom to discover your strength. Brandon never reached out after I blocked him. Neighbors said he rented a small apartment and got a job. Whether true or not doesn't matter. He's no longer my responsibility. I did my duty as a mother. Raised him, loved him, protected him. He chose another path. That choice is his, and so are its consequences. I looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Robert, for believing I was strong enough." Then to myself, "Thank you, Maggie, for not giving up." True wealth isn't what we own. It's what we refuse to let others take. The most precious thing is self-respect. Some wounds never heal as expected, but time and courage turn them into scars, reminders of how strong we were to survive. I once thought a mother's love was unbreakable, but now I understand love must be nurtured with respect and honesty. When someone only takes and never gives, that's not love. It's a burden. It took nearly a lifetime to learn. Loving your child doesn't mean losing yourself. Only when you preserve your dignity and self-respect can you truly give love that's real. Family isn't where you endure. It's where you belong, find peace, and are loved. I've started volunteering, counseling elderly people being abused. My pain became strength to help others. Every Wednesday after our group, I stay to talk with anyone who needs it. Last week, Grace came back. She'd spoken to a lawyer. She was taking her life back. Her eyes were different, filled with determination instead of fear. That's the gift from surviving. You don't just save yourself. You light the way for others still lost in darkness. And you, have you ever had to stand up for yourself against people you love? Have you felt invisible in your own home? Wondered if it's too late to start over? Let me tell you, it's never too late. I was 67 when I took my life back. 67 when I learned my worth wasn't determined by who loved me, but by how much I loved myself. Share your story in the comments. Each of us has our own journey to reclaim strength and faith. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Someone out there needs to hear it, needs to know they're not alone. If you want to keep walking with me through stories of resilience, love, and freedom, follow the channel so we never lose each other along the way. Because together, we're stronger. Together, we rise.